glad to have you join us this evening. This is News Now on Flow 94.9 FM, the flow of God's own state. My name is Michael Oni. The headlines. Federal government insists it has decimated Boko Haram insurgents. Court OK suits barring President Buhari from appointing Justice Tanko Mohammed as substantive CJN. Abia State government restates directive on closure of brothels in Umuahia. And on the foreign scene, African summit calls for democratic transition in Sudan within 3 months. The details shortly. And now the news in detail. The federal government is reiterating its position that it has largely depreciated the efficiency and the efficacy of Boko Haram insurgents. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, is while fielding questions from newsmen, and he said that for anyone to correctly assess the administration's performance in fighting insecurity, particularly Boko Haram, the individual must understand what the situation was before the inception of the administration in 2015. Lagos State government says preparations are on top gear to host President Muhammadu Buhari on his official visit tomorrow. During the one-day working visit, a number of state projects included a rehabilitated 110-lane Oshodi Murtala Mohammed International Airport Road, the one maternity hospital at the Lagos State University Teaching Hospital in Ikeja will be commissioned by the president. Other projects to be commissioned include the Lagos State Theatre at Oregun in Ikeja, a new 820 mass transit buses, and the multi-level Oshodi Transport Interchange on the Apapa Oshodi Expressway. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Audu Ogbe, is advocating for technology-based agriculture as a means of sustainable food security and sufficiency for the nation's growing population. Ogbe, at the 2019 Annual Research Review and Planning Meeting in Zaria, Kaduna State, called on all stakeholders to support the federal government efforts towards repositioning the agricultural sector. The minister, who was represented by the Director Extension Services in the ministry, Karima Babangida, stressed that the need for to truly become the nation's green alternative to oil in promoting national economic growth. And to security, a former director of the State Security Service, Mike Ejiofor, says the police reform bill recently signed into law by the National Assembly will instill people's confidence in the force. Ejiofor stated this while appearing as a guest on a monitor. He noted that his officers on the rules of engagement, among other things, will strengthen personnel of the force on professionalism. Similarly, a former Assistant Inspector General of Police, Bala Hassan, says the welfare of the police officers should be made paramount to ensure commitment to national security from the police officers. Hassan, who was ill, Assembly, noted that the training and retraining of the police officers also lay credence to the bill. Abuja Division by President Muhammadu Buhari from Nigeria as the leadership of the judiciary in a substantive capacity. The suit is praying the court to declare that Justice Mohammed, who is currently the most senior jurist at the Supreme Court, is unfit to replace the sacked CJN, Justice Walter Onnoghen. The plaintiff, who is a human rights lawyer, Malcolm Omerobo, is praying the court to declare that the acting CJN, Justice Mohammed, having made himself available as a tool that was used in the violation of the Constitution, especially with regards to the illegal removal of the former CJN, is therefore not a proper and a fit person to be recommended for the appointment to head the judiciary. The Deputy Chief Registrar of the Court of Appeal headquarters in Abuja, Rabi Abdulaziz, says the number of election petitions challenging various results of the 2019 general elections has risen from its 736 status as of the 4th of April to 766. Abdulaziz added that 77 election petitions tribunal panels have been set up by the President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Zainab Bolkachuwa, to hear the matters. The data showed that the number of presidential election petitions remained 4 in number as it was in the earlier summary of records made public on the 4th of April. And back home in Abia State, the state government is restating the directive of the closure of brothels located along Calabar Road, Arochukwu Street, and other locations within Ishigate area of Umuahia. A statement by the Deputy Chief of Staff, Opai Agu Opai, said that the government had observed gradual return of the area by hoodlums, commercial sex workers, and drug dealers. He directed security agencies, especially the police, to enforce the subsisting directive of the governor, as well as to take additional measures to rid Umuahia and Aba and also other towns of criminal hideouts. Opai also urged commercial sex workers affected by the directive to avail themselves of the free vocational training offered by the government through the State Ministry of Women Affairs in conjunction with the Education for Employment of the government. Federal Medical Center, Umuahia, Abia State, is set to carry out another kidney transplant surgery in collaboration with a team of doctors from University of Toledo Medical Center, Ohio, in the United States of America. The hospital's management team, led by its new Chief Medical Director, Azubike Onyebochi, disclosed to Flow FM News that the kidney surgery would be carried out on one donor and a recipient. Meanwhile, the staff of the Federal Medical Center in Umuahia is reiterating the call on the federal government to upgrade the center to a teaching hospital. The Abia State Chairman, Medical Health Workers Union, Okoro Ogbonnaya, made this appeal during a staff meeting with the new Chief Medical Director, Onyebochi Azubike.
We want him to make sure that this Federal Medical Center is elevated to teaching hospital. We don't have any welfare boss. At least at the end of every year, that worker should smile home with something, no matter how little. When he was in Abakaleke, he was instrumental to payment of 13 months salary to Abakaleke teaching hospital workers. So I know that he will duplicate it here.
News just reaching us says Imo State House of Assembly today summoned the Secretary to the State Government, Mark Uchendu, to appear before it over alleged unparliamentary remarks on the House regarding the creation of autonomous communities. The lawmakers also moved a motion calling on the State Accountant General and the Commissioner for Finance, Ugochi Nnanna Okoro, and 15 local government chairmen who earlier refused to honor their invitation to appear before it tomorrow. You're listening to Flow 94.9 FM News now at 6 p.m. The news continues shortly with business, foreign, and sports news. Do stay tuned.
News now on Flow 94.9 FM, Umuahia, the flow of God's own state.
And straight to business. The General Manager Public Relations of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Sam Aduruboye, says the authority will soon demolish over 7,000 telecommunications masts belonging to the Global System for Mobile Communications Providers erected across the country. Aduruboye said the NCAA was compelled to recourse to such line of action due to the failure of the telecommunications providers, including Globacom Limited, to obtain the statutory aviation height clearance. And on the foreign scene, African leaders at an emergency meeting in Cairo are urging Sudan's military rulers to implement a democratic transition within 3 months. Egypt and representatives from several other African nations agreed on the need for more time for Sudanese authorities and political actors to fully implement a peaceful, organized and democratic transition measures. They also urged the African Union to extend by 3 months a deadline, currently the end of April, for Sudan's military council to hand power to a civilian authority or face suspension from a regional bloc. And in sports, Manchester United manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is insisting he's the right man to take Manchester United forward, despite an alarming loss of form that has left them in danger of missing out on the place in the next season's Champions League. After a magnificent start as United caretaker manager following Jose Mourinho's sacking, Solskjaer has seen his side suffer an unequal dramatic slump, losing 6 of the last 8 games in all competitions. Solskjaer's lack of managerial experience at the very highest level of game, especially in the transfer market, have raised questions over his suitability to return United to the top of the football ladder. To end the news, a recap of our major stories. The federal government is reiterating its position that it has largely depreciated the efficiency and the efficacy of Boko Haram insurgents. Abuja Division of the Federal High Court has okayed a fresh suit seeking to bar President Muhammadu Buhari from appointing the acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Tanko Mohammed, to take over the leadership of the judiciary in a substantive capacity. Abia State government is restating its directive on the closure of brothels located along Calabar Road, Arochukwu Street, and other locations within Ishigate area of Umuahia. And on the foreign scene, African leaders at an emergency summit in Cairo have called on Sudan's military rulers to implement a democratic transition within 3 months. Thanks for being with us. Remember that security is everyone's business. Provide useful information to security agencies to ensure your security. Join us at 6:45 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. every weekday for additional newscast. This is Flow 94.9 FM, the flow of God's own state. You can send your views or information to flowfmnews@gmail.com or visit www.flownews.com.ng for more stories. This bulletin was edited by Ginika Oloha, and also supervising editor is Samson Eze. My name is Michael Oni. Do have a fantastic evening.